Hey guys, welcome back to the Hit Up podcast. Today we are joined by a very special guest, former Gold Coast Titans player and now Brisbane Broncos player, David Mead. How's it going?
Hey lads, I'm going good. How you going?
Yeah, good.
Pretty excited.
Yeah, pretty crappy at the moment with a bit of a lockdown, but yeah, we're powering through it.
Yeah, it'd be pretty tough, mate. Hope it ends sooner rather than later.
Yeah, so it's supposed to be a short and snapped 3 day or a week, but turned into nearly 2 months. So who knows where it's going to go, but hopefully we get out before Christmas.
Yeah, hopefully, mate, hopefully.
Basically, David, what we like to do at the start of every podcast is we like to give our guests 6 quickfire questions. So I'll pretty much ask you 6 quickfire questions and you just tell me what comes off the top of your head.
No worries.
All right, easy. So 1 sec. Favorite fast food?
McDonald's.
Toughest player to play against?
Can you repeat that? What was that?
Toughest player to play against?
Oh, there's so many. Toughest. Maybe that's a hard one. Cameron Murray.
Favorite NRL team growing up?
St. George Dragons.
Bring back the Biff, yes or no?
Yes and no.
Very early 2022 Premier prediction.
2022?
Yeah.
Brisbane Broncos.
Let's go. Yeah. All right. So obviously you're from Papua New Guinea. Did you have an idol growing up watching the game that you always wanted to play like or impacted your game?
Mate, I had several throughout the years. The earliest memories I have were because I watched the St. George Dragons. I used to enjoy watching, I don't know if you guys remember them, but Nathan Blacklock, Anthony Mundine, Trent Barrett, guys like that. But then also, because Broncos is so big in PNG, I used to enjoy watching Steve Renouf, score his long-range tries. So those are the guys I enjoyed watching. But then a guy called Marcus Bai, he used to play for the Melbourne Storm as well. He was a hero in PNG. So I just loved watching him because all the Papua New Guineans loved watching him.
Yeah, 100%. So obviously you started your career off at the Gold Coast Titans. What was it like playing for them in your early years as well as the club's early years as a professional team?
Mate, that was lots of fun. I was still in high school in 2007, and I remember the Titans coming into the competition. And when I was in high school, I'd signed a contract with them for like one of those development contracts. So I was really excited that the team was in the area. The area was excited. I was from Lismore, New South Wales, so about an hour and a half down from the Surfers Paradise there. And the area was buzzing because this new team had come into the NRL and all the people from that area were going to support the Gold Coast Titans. And a couple of my other mates were signed with the Titans as well. So, it was exciting times while I was in school and while I watched those 2 first years of Titans in the NRL. And then when I did get the opportunity to play with those guys that I idolized growing up, it was a huge buzz. Hey, I just remember in preseason with Preston Campbell's, Matty Rogers, Scotty Prince, Chris Walker, guys that I loved playing with. And here I was, training with them and then playing alongside them at Skilled Park, it was called at the time. And it was just exciting, but then the guys back then told me as well, enjoy it, mate, because it'll go really quick. And it certainly feels like it's gone really quick because I remember those early days like it was yesterday. But I was there from 2009 to 2016, and I certainly enjoyed my time there. I made some great memories. I've made some lifelong friends. So it's a club that's always going to be close to my heart.
Yeah, obviously you scored a lot of tries in the Titans, but one stands out to me, and I'm sure you get asked this a lot, but that one where you scoop the ball up from out of bounds? It's an all-time. What was going through your head like in that process?
Well,
that was
if you watch the video again, I actually missed the jump on the kick. I was about 5 meters back, too far, and Scotty Prince had put a kick up over, and if I was in line with him, it would have just been a catch, easy catch, in the arms to put down. But at first, I thought, oh no, I'm going to miss this, and then by chance, I just stuck my hand out, and the ball stuck somehow. I don't know how. And then next minute, I'm looking at the touch judge, thinking if he's going to put the flag up or not, because I didn't know if the ball touched the line. And then, when I looked at the replay, I was like, oh, geez, I'm pretty happy with that try. Eh? I'll claim that.
Definitely probably one of the greatest tries out there. So you've been a staple for PNG and even captained them to the World Cup in 2017. How was that experience? What was it like captaining a nationality?
Well, the first time I captained them was in 2016 in Sydney there when we played against Fiji. And I remember the coach pulling me aside as a team photos, and he just said, the photographer said he hadn't told me yet, and the photographer came up and said, all right, we're going to have the coach here and then the captain at the front too. So the coach said, all right, hold on, photographer, I just got to speak to the captain. So he pulled me aside while all the boys are like lining up to get photos, and then he just said, man, I'm going to make you captain. And then that moment, it was just crazy. Yeah, a lot of thoughts went through my head, a lot of emotions. I thought about my family and how much they supported me all through those years. So, and then we sat down and took the photo, and then I went back to the room and rang the family. So, and they were pretty happy. But to captain a country that loves their rugby league, it's certainly a huge honour for me. I didn't take it lightly. I took it very seriously, and I tried to give my best every time I put that jersey on for PNG, regardless of whether I was captain or not. So it's certainly a huge honour for me.
absolutely. Keeping it on PNG, obviously they're really bright. I think that they have the type of names that can make Australia, Tonga, and New Zealand.
Sorry, mate, can you just repeat that one?
Sorry, obviously the future's looking bright for Papua New Guinea, a lot of young rising players. Do you think that they can test the likes of Tonga and Australia and New Zealand?
Yeah, I think so, mate. I think we're still a few years behind in terms of getting players up to NRL standard, and even Queensland Cup standard. I know we got the PNG Hunters in the Queensland Cup who didn't do too well this year because it was COVID and travelling away from home. A lot of the guys living away from their home, and a lot of things were challenging for them throughout the year. But I think for PNG to compete consistently against, Tonga, Fiji, Samoa, Australia, New Zealand, England, I think for us to compete consistently against these teams, we need juniors coming through good systems, developing really well at a young age, like they do here in Australia and New Zealand. And for them to get good quality coaching, and because it's very different when you grow up here, you get the coaching and you get the coaching over in PNG. The quality is a bit different. The effort's the same, but the standard of training is very different. So I think that needs to be implemented in PNG for us to keep moving forward. Yeah.
Would you ever consider playing for the PNG Hunters? If the opportunity came about?
Yeah, mate, they did ask me to play with them for next year.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I won't be able to because of the relationship that, Wynnum has with the Broncos. And that's been a relationship there that's been strong for many, many years. And out of respect of, I'm linked with Wynnum for next year because I'm signed to the Broncos as well. But if an opportunity did come up to play for the Hunters in the future, I'd certainly consider it because, I want to give back to the country in many different ways. And I think giving back to them by playing for the Hunters would certainly be great. So it wouldn't be a no for me.
Yeah. Are there any players in PNG to look out for the future, like any young guns coming through that we should keep an eye out for?
Mate, there's always young guns, coming out of PNG. There's a couple there at the Hunters. I think they've still got years of developing, like similar to what Justin had. He got an opportunity at Melbourne Storm. But I think there's a few guys there who, if they were to be picked up by NRL clubs and to have in their system, they do really well. One guy who's Edene Gebi, he played for the Wynnum Seagulls a couple of years ago. He's got an opportunity, but he's signed with the Black Hawks now. So I'm still hoping that he can play NRL, because he's certainly got the potential to play NRL. It's just a matter of getting the coaching in and helping him develop as a player.
Yeah, 100%. So going back to your career specifically, you obviously played city versus country. What was camp like in that? Because obviously people talk about that it's like a real short and sharp camp. What was that like?
Mate, it was about 2 or 3 training sessions. I remember you go into camp on the Monday, and I think this was in 2014 was my first year, and you get to see the other NRL players how they prepare themselves over the 2-3 days that you're in camp for before the game, and that's probably the best part about it. I think just seeing how they, what foods they eat, how they prepare themselves, how they train, how they, what stretches they're doing, and then when you get to talk to them about what they do at their clubs, you get a good insight of how they operate, and that's probably the best part of the outside of the game. That's probably the best part about the camp, because you get to learn so much about other players, and because you don't get to see them throughout the year, and then when you're in camp with them, you get to see what they're, how they how they hold their standards to themselves. So it's awesome. It was awesome for those 2 years that I was there.
Definitely. So what was the experience like playing Super League for Catalans? Were there any huge difference from the NRL?
Mate, the game itself, just as tough, just as fast, and just as physical. The only difference, in my opinion, other players may disagree with me, is the decisions that the outside backs make. The NRL standards is a lot better than the Super League in that area, I believe. The forwards, they tackle you and they run just as hard, they wrestle you. So, that's that part of the games. There's not much difference there. And maybe there's, because of the decision making the outside backs make over in the Super League, I feel like besides the last 2 years, because of the 6 again, I feel like outside of that, that's why the scores are always big playing over there. But since bringing the 6 again rule in the NRL, the scores seem to blow out a lot more than what they used to.
Yeah, definitely.
Are you a fan of the 6 again, or do you reckon just back to penalties?
Mate, when I first saw it last year, when the game came back into place after COVID, I was a huge fan, because it was exciting. It was open play, a lot more tries, a lot more points. But then as the year went on, I'm not really a fan now. Hey, I hope it doesn't stick around, because seeing a 50-6 or 50-12 scoreline every week, it's not pretty. And that 6 again, it's only going to be a few teams that are going to be able to cope with that, as we've seen the last 2 years. So I hope that the NRL gets rid of that and we can go back to what the rules were like before.
Yeah, absolutely. You obviously played a few first grade games this year for the Broncos. How was it out there? You scored a couple of tries. How did you think you went this year?
Mate, I was pretty happy with, especially round 1 when I played against the Eels. I thought my NRL career was over. The year before, I was in France. At the time, I was asking my manager to find gigs over back in Oz, but then he wasn't getting back to me on time. So I would message the coaches myself and give them a call. And a lot of them said no. But the Broncos were one of the main clubs that said, we'll have a spot for you next year. So I was grateful for that opportunity. But, I was in France just thinking, this could be it for me. And then when I came back and ran out against the Eels round 1, it just felt surreal to be back playing in the NRL, because it didn't really feel like that moment was going to happen again. But then I was able to go on and play 10 games this year for the club. Scored a few tries as well, so I was pretty happy about it. But I would have loved to play every game in the NRL. But we've got some young, exciting talent there who are very excited to be part of the Broncos' future. So they got their opportunities as well, and they certainly played well, and they're going to be good for the club. So my role as a senior player there now is to help these guys develop, and obviously I want to keep playing first grade as well. So I'll be fighting hard to get a spot, but at the same time helping these young guys develop.
Definitely. So you're also on the side, you have the David Mead podcast, and you've had a few guests on like Xavier Coates, Justin Olam, and others. Tell us a bit about it. How did it come about?
I got approached by a newspaper in PNG, and they said, would you be willing to do a 250 to 300 word youth empowerment message? And I was running out of ideas on how to empower the youth back in PNG. I did about 4 or 5 months of those messages, and I was running out of ideas on how to empower the youth. And I thought, I could really use some help with other players' stories and what they do on a day-to-day basis so that the youth can see that this is what it takes to play in the NRL. It's not just a straight line to get to where you are. What are the challenges along the way? What's hard? What's easy? And what did you do to overcome those challenges? All these. That's the reason why the podcast got started. I've always wanted to start a podcast. I didn't know what on, but that idea was really, really appealing to me. And the whole podcasting world is still new to me. I'm still trying to, I'm learning my way through it. But I've certainly enjoyed getting the boys on because what happens is I actually get to know them a bit more than what I do at training. I never ask the questions that I do on the podcast at training because, there's 30 blokes around and someone's always coming and going and you're talking to each other. You don't get in-depth conversation with any of them. And plus it's recorded so people can see it and then, get some entertainment out of it too. So that's kind of the idea behind the David Mead podcast.
Definitely.
Yeah. So going back to the season this year, you obviously had Kevy Walters as your coach. I feel like the media portray him pretty poorly. What is he really like as a coach?
Mate, he's one of the most passionate guys you'll ever meet. He's got high standards, obviously, because he won 5 premierships, I believe it was, with the Broncos, and that's where he wants the Broncos to be. Back in that winning circle, like they did in the 90s and the early 2000s. So he's trying to get maybe he's portrayed that way in the media because of the passion that he shows, and sometimes comes across ruthless, but he's a very nice guy. He speaks well in camp. He wants to hold high standards so that players can rise to it. But he's also he's caring as well. So we all know what the media can be like. They can take a photo of a moment, and people will make assumptions about that one photo or one video and draw conclusions from it. But Kevy's a top guy outside of what media try to portray him sometimes.
Yeah, keeping it on your game. You obviously had the grand final last week. It was a great game, but something I wanted to highlight was what happened after the game. Could you speak a bit on what happened with that handshake?
Oh, mate. Mate, honestly, I think it was a bit of a stitch-up, because I've known Scotty Sattler since I was 16, 17, whenever I signed with the Titans, because he was a team manager back then for the Titans. And then after the interview, when I tried to shake his hand, he obviously brushed me unknowingly. And then when the camera cut, he actually came back and shook my hand. So,
just after the camera shut off.
When the camera moved away, he go, "Oh, sorry, mate." He came back and shook my hand. So we missed that. That 2 seconds was missed, but at least it's provided some good entertainment for a lot of people on social media and across people who are watching on TV. I did have a lot of messages come through straight after the game saying bad luck about the game, but I love the handshake. So that made the night a little bit easier to handle.
Yeah, definitely. So just talking about after your career, have you given to any thought what life may look after footy?
Mate, I enjoy, junior development, and I want to help PNG, develop systems in place so that the juniors can get good coaching and develop well in that area. I think that's a area that can be helped massively, not just by myself, but a lot of other people as well. So that's an area I'm interested in, junior development, and maybe a little bit of coaching as well. I haven't given that one too much thought, but I have been asked by a few people what I want to do. So that's kind of another thought. You never know, maybe podcasting will be a full-time job for me too. So I certainly do enjoy doing this stuff, and having a chat to different people, and getting to know them as well.
So it's just following up on that, if a job opportunity came up for maybe coaching like PNG's national side, would you take it?
If I was ready for the job, yes, I certainly would be. But as soon as I retire, I don't think I'd be ready for it. But maybe sometime down the future when I get a bit of experience coaching, maybe a junior side or something, that I certainly wouldn't say no. I coached my son's touch football side, and that's under sixes, and that's pretty hard job. So I don't know how I'd go coaching men at a national level.
So I watched a football podcast yesterday, and it was like talking to some professional football player in England, and he said as soon as the game was over, everyone in the team would go on their phones and check social media, see what people were writing about them. Is that the same in rugby league, or is that something completely different?
Yeah, I think some guys certainly do. I go on my phone straight after the game, especially if I just because my wife's waiting outside in the stadium or something, just to let her know that how long I'll be until I leave the stadium. But while I'm on my phone, you can get distracted pretty easy because you've got a lot of messages, and sometimes you just check social media real quick and you've got to hit all these notifications and stuff. And then you can get caught up in that for a bit. So I'll put my hand up. I'm certainly guilty of it sometimes, but I try not to go on my phone, check social media much or anything. But it certainly does happen, but not for everyone. Some guys like to just phones away, sit down, have a chat, shower, go get a feed, and then go home.
Yeah, sweet. So do you have any tips for young outside backs wanting to make it into the NRL, like any specific things that they have to work on?
I think if you're a winger, I think first of all, if you're someone who enjoys the game, I'll just tick that box off first. If you enjoy the game, that's number one. You have to do that. If you want to make it to the top level, not everyone will, but if you work hard, if you train hard, listen to your coach, eat well, do your stretching. If you prepare your body as well as you can, you give yourself a good chance. I guess one thing on the game, if I was to give advice to wingers, if you work on your positional play, anticipating the kickers, sometimes a kicker can kick early, but just look up and use your eyes, look around the field, observe, especially defensively. If you can see that a halfback's going to kick the ball early, or the hooker's going to kick the ball out of, try and go for 40-20. If you can anticipate, I think that's the key word, anticipate. I think that'll certainly help you, because I don't think as a winger I really had many skills or talents. But one thing I did work hard on was trying to get good positionally and anticipating kicks so that I can put myself in good positions. I think it's a skill I'm still trying to learn. I'm still trying to develop. So if there's one tip, it'd be work hard on that.
Do you have any players that are just so hard to catch their bombs? Is there a player that stands out?
Anthony Milford. Now training is the bombs he puts up. They're normally the opposite spiral. Normally a spiral kick off the outside foot, you can anticipate where it's going. His is off the inside, so it normally goes the other way, but they're really hard to catch. If you really want to test yourself, you catch bombs against Anthony Milford, you give yourself a pretty good chance against everyone else.
Absolutely. So taking it off rugby league for a sec, do you watch any other sports, and who are your teams in those sports?
Mate, not too much sports. I do enjoy watching boxing sometimes. I think Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder just fought on the weekend. I certainly enjoy their fights, but I used to be a big cricket fan. I haven't watched too much lately, but I mainly just watch rugby league, and because I've got 2 boys now, they keep me busy most days. So by the time they go to bed, I'm sitting down reading a book or something like that, or trying to look at who my next guest should be on the podcast. So that's keeping me busy at the moment.
Definitely. So you just mentioned you got 2 boys. Do you think they'll get into rugby league, and are you going to push them into the sport, or?
Everyone asks me this question, eh? I don't think I'll push them into rugby league, even though I would love for them to get into sport, because I feel like I know a thing or two about the game. But if they did decide to play soccer or AFL, rugby union, cricket, or any other, even if it wasn't sport, whatever they chose, I'd just provide a solid foundation for them to, follow a good path and, chase their dreams. If they didn't want to play rugby league and I was forcing them, it wouldn't really feel too good for me.
Yeah.
No one forced me to play rugby league. I chose it myself. So, and I think it's worked out well. If I was pushed into it, I probably wouldn't have enjoyed it as much.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty much all the time we've got for today. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a great chat, learned a lot of new things, and I just want to say thanks again for joining us.
No worries. Thanks, lads. It's been a pleasure chatting to you guys. I certainly enjoy the questions. I get a random one here or two, here and there, and it makes me think. So thanks very much, guys. I wish you all the best with the podcast.
You too.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks.